It's here from Pop Turn. It's me to Joe Delfin about Thanksgiving, which is now in theaters. The McCarty party is on right here on Pop Turnative. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, dude. Appreciate it. How's it going?
It's going well, man. It's going well. I'm sure it's just been kind of like nonstop on your end a little bit. It's just a little crazy, right? Not more than that.
Yeah, it's been a little bit surreal, like especially since the premiere in LA last week. I think it was. I don't know. Time just like accelerated in that time period. The strikes ended, and then everyone was like, "Oh, we got to go to LA now!" Suddenly, and go to this like try to see the movie at this fan screening, and it's going to be like a premiere. And then we just all scrambled, all the Canadians in our own way, to just get out there. And then we showed up, and it was like amazing. We saw it in Quentin Tarantino's Vista Theater on 35 millimeter. And it was like unreal, dude. It was so good.
I mean, I think the best thing about this movie, I mean, this is like the movie. These are the movies made to go see in the movie theaters. Like these are the movie theaters.
Absolutely.
Movies.
Absolutely.
You know, that's kind of on its own, because I feel like this movie just ticks so many boxes, Joe, right? And I feel like it's one of those things. So what's it kind of like being part of horror movies at a time where there is a big appetite for them? Like there's been a big surge. They've always been around, but there's such a like popularity with the genre. What's that like for you as an actor?
Honestly, like this is my first experience doing a horror film, as a matter of fact. So I was just excited to do this type of character, like a comedic relief. That's kind of also so close to who I am in real life in a way. Mm-hmm. I hope that I'm not like an actual dick like that in real life, though. But I guess for this movie specifically, I can only speak to this. It's like I think it was the right time and the right place for it to come out. You know, like there's been once I heard the title Thanksgiving, I was like, oh yeah, that's like so obvious and on the nose, but it just makes sense.
Yes.
That this type of thing would come out now, and then you have like this mythological figure, which is John Carver, and then he just kind of like, to me, visually filled in this slot like between, you know, like Ghostface and Michael Myers and all those like images. Like he fits there now, so I'm hoping that it'll continue to be a thing that goes on and that gains popularity in like the horror zeitgeist, and more so in the like slasher zeitgeist. And also it's just like so funny too. So like the way that the humor was plugged into this movie, it was you're laughing at moments when you're actually observing yourself from outside your body, being like, why are you laughing at this?
But it's not like forced either. Like it's not forced humor, right?
Yeah. It was like a fine balance, and everything was like in the right place, and I thought it was executed in such a clever way.
I mean, obviously the writing and everything, but I mean that someone also has to deliver the lines in a certain way, and that's a credit to you, man, because McCarty you are so funny in this movie, man. Like,
oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, that means a lot to me, because like, you know, as an actor, we're just insecure little babies, you know. We just want to be reassured constantly, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it's just funny. It's like it's a tale as old as time, dude. Like every time I would finish thinking like, oh man, was that good enough? I'd be like squirming on the inside. But you know, like the great thing about Eli is that he like picks his actors well. Like he knows exactly what he's doing, so he's gonna tell you if something's not working.
Yeah.
So there's nothing really to worry about. You know what I mean? So those nerves kind of dissipate when you realize who you're on set with as well.
100%. Did you audition for McCarty? Like, was he the guy you auditioned for? Did you audition for multiple? Like, what was the audition process like?
Honestly, bro, like I went through the process just like any other submission that my agent would send me, whether it was for like a small day player for a TV show or whatever, anything of lesser magnitude. And, you know, since COVID ended, it's all self-tape. So I just submitted another self-tape.
Yep.
Went to my buddy's house. I prepared, luckily, for a little bit longer than I had a bit more time to prepare with this one, which was nice. And I just kind of like went for it. And then I submitted it and, you know, thought the exact same way about it like I did with anything else I'd submitted in the past. Like, I don't know if that was any good or if they're gonna like it.
Yeah.
And I probably won't book this. And not to like be down on myself or anything, but that's kind of like a general consensus, or just a general sort of feeling amongst actors. You're like, it's just like another audition. You don't really think too much on it. You just kind of want to put it out there and let it go, and then you just move on with your life. And luckily, it just worked out. It was like timing and like a broader spectrum of conditions that allowed me to just kind of like fill in that slot.
Yeah.
And that was it, pretty much. It was just like timing and preparation. It was like preparation meets luck, more or less.
100%. One thing of this movie, and I think I told you this before we kind of got this interview started, but like one thing I really loved in the movie was there were some scenes, but I wish there was more like McCarty and his dad, because those interactions just killed me. You know what I mean? Like, there were some small moments there that were actually really, really fun. There's some things that were cut out, like you have to cut movies down to like keep a certain pace and make sure everyone's stories are rounded out. But there were some moments where I was also thinking like, man, it would be so fun if like my dad just freaks out at me and he's like smacks me in the side of the head like in front of all the students, and then like he embarrasses me. I wish there was more scenes where he embarrassed me. It would have been really funny. But yeah, there's only like you're playing with so many scenes and so many things. You have to like know which babies to kill, so to speak. 100%. And like it's funny because I want to get into like my favorite scene, which is the parade, because like that scene was just like the most chaotic thing. Like, you're playing guitar and there's so much happening with the float. Like that's like the best thing ever. But before that, I mean, one of the main things too, we talked about it ticking a lot of boxes, like this movie, but the fact that we have like kind of like a two-headed monster, maybe a three-headed monster a little bit, because we talked about the comedy perspective of it. Like, it's so funny, right? But you have the slasher where it's like, someone in a town killing everyone. So you look at like the Halloween of Mike Myers and Jason Voorhees Friday the 13th, where who the killer is, right? But then you also have kind of the Scream Ghostface, like whodunit component as well. Like, what is that like, kind of being part of a movie where it's like a slasher and the whodunit components? Because it's like those are two separate movies if you think about it, like in one.
Well, reading the script, I was very much like obviously aware of those two elements. But when I was shooting, like my scenes were kind of like sort of separate from that. They were like isolated in their own little like world. So the other characters who were, being obviously pursued by the killer are coming into my world.
Yes.
And I'm like a little bit separate from that. So when I was shooting on the days, I was kind of removed from that in a way.
Yeah.
I wasn't like that immersed in it, but so I didn't have like that deep of a connection with that whodunit element. Like, I knew what was going on the whole time because I'd read the script, and my character was just this guy who would just kind of play around with everybody.
I find it interesting, though, because there are red herring moments from McCarty. Like, there are some moments, right? I mean,
yeah, there are. Yeah.
Like, I thought The Ring was interesting, but again, it was like too obvious. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I thought that was interesting. I definitely felt like when we see you roll up to sell them protection and guns, I was like, this guy's a suspect. Like, when we first meet McCarty, you know what I mean? I was like, there's intrigue here. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure. And I think they do that with a number of like characters. They want to like, they want to throw off the scent, or I guess if that makes sense to the audience. Like, if you watch it in the movie, spoiler alert, like when I pull up there's a quick shot of like a gray panel van.
Yep.
It's just these little things that are kind of cool things to throw the audience off. And actually, it was funny. I went to the theater a bunch of times with some of the cast members, and then like on my own to watch the movie. And I could hear people trying to solve it around me. Like, there was a couple behind me trying to whisper solve the movie the whole time.
Shut up! I'm trying to watch the McCarty party.
yeah, I'm trying to watch myself, man. So it was actually funny. I was just like, oh, I'm so used to the story because I've read the script so many times. And I know all the ins and outs, and I know all the scenes that were kind of like deleted as well. So it actually worked for people. Like, the whodunit element came in, and I really noticed it in the theaters because it happened a few times where I would hear people actively trying to solve it with their friends or partners. So that element was very much alive and like well done, and it registered with the audience. So yeah.
The parade was probably just chaos, right? Like just from a filming perspective, like everyone being there and everything, that must have just been like insane, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of bodies. There's a lot of like background actors. Definitely when you're outside all day for a few days in a row and it's cold, like, people's patience can run out. You want to like try to stay on the ball and like be present and like activated the whole time. But I think the craziest part was like, when all chaos breaks out and then the green smoke comes in and the turkey gets its head chopped off and that crazy clown comes in, those moments were insane. Like I was off to the side watching some of those parts being filmed, and like you gotta just trust in so many strangers as the director to just like end up where you're supposed to end up. And there were a couple parts that I was in. There was one part that I think they cut out where I like actually grabbed the clown, and it was just an improvised moment where I'm supposed to like kind of rough him up.
Yeah.
But they got rid of that because there's so much commotion.
Oh yeah.
And there's so much that can go wrong from a technical point of view. But they pulled it off, and I think it took a couple of days. It was like 2 or 3 days from what I recall. And then like the floats, we would do like a massive circle and then just like go back to one. So like, it was just a lot of like resetting, you know what I mean? So you got to just kind of be patient and go with the flow with that sort of thing and just like stay in there in the moment as much as possible. But yeah, a lot of bodies to look after. So it's kind of nerve wracking when you're like, oh man, I hope everybody just like does the right thing at the right time.
And, again, we're not going to talk about it that much, you know what I mean? But it's the cat's out of the bag, Thanksgiving 2 is happening. I mean, that must be the coolest feeling though, being like, we obviously did something right, you know what I mean, like as a cast and a crew that people want more. Like that must have just been a cool feeling to read right online.
It was honestly after the movie came out, I got a lot of like love from people, even like strangers in my DMs. They're like, hey man, I really like McCarty. I thought the character was like, he was like a good mix of being like a douchebag but also like having a bit of heart, which I also think made people probably want to see more of the character, which is a nice feeling. So yeah, like I'm pretty happy with what I did. It just like, it all just worked out. It was like a perfect storm in a way. You know what I mean?
100%.
So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm quite satisfied.
I'm really happy for you, man. Honestly, you were so good in this movie, and
thanks,
seriously,
dude.
man, it was so good. And no, I can't wait for people to continue to go see it. It's in theaters still, so they can go check it out. Joe, so great chatting with you, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show, dude.
Dude, thanks for having me. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, Instagram, Joe Delfin. Hey, people want to keep updated with everything, or is it like Joe.Delfin or something?
It's Joe.Delfin. Okay. Yeah, just to make it a little bit confusing.
Yeah, awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. Previous episodes, you can catch Joe Delfin as McCarty in Thanksgiving, which is now still in theaters. Until next time, this is Joe and Peter Beats, signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.